Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are back and live from beautiful Denver, Colorado, here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us a part of your terrific Tuesday night. We are live on all platforms. And of course, our good hands out there, TikTok Live. We are officially live on TikTok Live now. iHeartRadio, YouTube, Twitch, X, and IG. Those are the social medias for you to like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell button to keep you up to date on future and past shows. March Madness cooking up. We're already at the Sweet 16. By the way, for those of you guys that are big into sports gambling and sports betting, we encourage you guys to sign up now at BetUS.com, because when you do, and for $100 down in your deposit, you'll get a free entry into the $10,000 Sweet 16 contest going on right now. BetUS.com, BetUS, where the game begins. All right, guys. So first and foremost, this week, I feel like we've been on an outrage streak right now. So why I'm talking about this is because for many of the football fans that are out there, most of you guys want me to basically be outraged by the whole Shohei Ohtani story. Most of you want me to be outraged by the latest NFL rules. I get it, guys. But like I said last night, Shohei Ohtani, a foreigner with an interpreter, basically needed help to express in a foreign country, basically coming into the United States, needed help with it. But the latest I'm talking about here today is involving the NFL's latest rule changes. People are not basically happy about this. Now, the latest rule changes that has basically happened now today is that the NFL has changed two rules. They have now banned the hip drop rule, and they've also changed the kickoff rules, which basically means that the NFL kickoffs are going to be much like, the XFL. That's the way that they're kind of putting all this stuff together. Now, I like the kickoff rule. I just don't like the hip drop rule. Now, let me explain to many people about, the kickoffs. So the kickoff ruling right now, currently in the XFL, it has certainly been a product of success. And the reason of this is because now it's eliminating the touchback rule. So which means the football is going to basically be kicked inside from the goal lines. So This now gives them an opportunity to basically have no touchbacks and no fair catches from this point. Now, the kickoff ruling also means that there is a delay in time when it comes to getting after the returner. So that's what this is. I like the rule. I think this is a great rule. Honestly, I think the kickoff rules really do help out in many situations. So in this particular segue, this means now the NFL starting to kind of innovate in some ways. I like this rule because now this allows the returner, because we watched Devin Hester and we watched many different returners over the years be great at being the return man. But this allows them now to have extra time to basically secure the football, get set, and be ready to run. Now, for the attackers and for the defenders, okay, on the delayed time, once the returner secures the football cleanly and efficiently, then they can go after him. This now helps them that the attackers basically have to be prepared for when the run happens. So I like it. I like the return rule. What I don't like is I don't like the hip drop rule. So what this is meaning, and I'm going to be asking a couple of former players as well, and many other analysts about this, because I think that this is going to be a rule that doesn't last. Now, what the NFL is doing, now for many people, this does not mean that the NFL is getting softer. What they are doing is that they are experimenting on a lot of these rules. They are. And so to me, I feel like the hip drop rule is the most egregious and atrocious rule. This is not going to last at all after this season. It's not. And you're going to notice a difference behind it, because with this banning, it's a 15-yard penalty. And what this is allowing now, this is allowing guys like Derrick Henry and bigger-bodied running backs that they're going to get more yards. This is also allowing them to basically be more catered to offense, which is what it has been now in the last 7 seasons, now that I've watched the NFL, because they've changed rulings when it comes to contested plays. They've changed rulings when it came to how they basically approach this. So in my mind, I feel like, what's the point of even having defense? And so, like I had mentioned, this is now killing the stocks of corners and safeties. Because if your defensive front line, your first line up front, between them and the linebackers, if they can't end up making the tackles up front, then you're on your secondary defense, which is basically your corners and safeties. And you're going to ask them to basically tackle up front. Concussions are going to be made. They're going to be more susceptible to injuries. Mike Mitchell, a Pittsburgh Steeler secondary, touched upon this subject, and he's pissed because all it is that this is basically catering to offense. And I think what this is also catering to, and I play it as well, I play fantasy football. So what this is catering to is this is catering to fantasy football fans. And this is catering to your lineups. This is catering to your offense. That's what it's doing. Now, I know a lot of fans, a lot of people around the NFL are so pissed by this rule. I don't blame them. I think for many instances and for many reasons exactly, is that I think that this ruling, the way that it's basically portraying itself out to be, is that I think this is now eliminating defenses. That's what it's doing. So, in my mind, I truthfully and honestly think this is not going to be a rule that's going to last. That's honestly going to last. This rule will definitely be abolished by the end of the year, and it should be. It should be very noted. This is a bad rule. I'm fine with the kickoff rule. I'm okay with it, but now you're just basically you're hammering down the stocks of defensive players, corners and safeties. linebackers and defensive linemen, they are there for one reason, and that is basically to attack the quarterback and the running back, anybody that's got the football in their hands. If you want to talk about player safety, how about get the insurance policies for current and former players to be insured? How about that? Make it better and make it more consistent. It ain't about just grooming up for the young guys in the NFL. Make the insurance policy better. The other thing is also get rid of the artificial turf. How many times has Jordan Poyer ended up complaining about this? He's gotten turf toe. He's gotten knee injuries. And it's not good. It's not good for most of these players. So the NFL, you could go ahead and say that you're a product of basically trying to prevent injuries in the NFL from happening, but you know what you signed up for. You looked at the fine print, you signed up on the contract, and you know you were going to be susceptible to injuries. This is what it takes to be an NFL player. Deal with it. Get with the program. Okay? It's a violent contact sport, mostly like hockey. You don't hear hockey players complaining about some of these hits. You don't hear them complaining an awful lot about some of this stuff. So what's the difference? So again, the NFL they're not perfect. Roger Goodell is not a perfect commissioner. I understand people's frustrations. This is an egregious rule, but I don't think this will last long. This is honestly going to be a rule fitted for this year. You're going to start to see a lot of penalties flying, and I think they're going to get rid of it because they should be fair to offense and defenses, because now you're starting to see the trend from defenses where corners and safeties are transitioning from defense to offense, and they're becoming wide receivers because they know that this is what it's changing towards. So if you want products of both offense and defense, you've got to be making this thing balanced. Listen, hockey is not perfect. Gary Bettman's not perfect, okay? But at the very least, what he does is try to make it to where the game is faster, okay? And he's also making it to where there's no real enforcer anymore like what it used to years ago. People are stepping up on they're honestly stepping up on their own grounds. They don't need an enforcer anymore. They can handle it. And these guys are skating faster than ever. Hyper-aggressive scoring seems to be the juice. So, and then in the NBA, the only thing that's killing Adam Silver is the NIL, the G League, and also a lot of international leagues. That's what's killing them of their products. By the way, John Calipari gave with the program, man, because trying to develop young freshmen against 22, 23-year-old seniors, it's not working. This one-and-done deal doesn't work anymore because the NFL is a perfect example as far as building your quarterbacks, building your offensive weaponry. They spend 3-4 years in college, and they're already superstars. By the time freshmen, the one-and-done deal in college hoops to the NBA, you don't hear about any of these college athletes until year 4, year 5 of their careers in the NBA. That's the only time you will. But honestly, I just think this is going to be an egregious rule. I love the kickoff. The kickoff rule is the only one I like. But you got to get with the program here when it comes to offenses and defenses that need to be balanced. All right, so here's a streak that's not very negative. That's not really, very outrageous or whatnot. Being outraged, that's not, this is not the streak. But I want to start talking the NHL for a second. So the Colorado Avalanche, since the trade deadline, are off to a torching hot start. They are. They have now won 7 straight games since the trade deadline. Casey Middlestat and Sean Walker are already proving themselves. They are by far the best fits that the Colorado Avalanche now have acquired. Now, the concern I have is because if you're already getting red hot this early, does that mean we're going to be bound for this team to slow down come the playoffs? Now, I don't want to think negatively about this team because I love that they're a hyper-aggressive offensive team. Jared Bednar is a smart coach. He knows exactly how to utilize and use everybody. But at the same time, this all comes from consistency. And a point that was made. If Alexander Georgiev, their goaltender, their netminder, if he ended up playing consistently like this right now in 7 straight games in the playoffs, the guy would already be a Vezina Trophy finalist. And I like Alexander Georgiev. I do. And I think right now he's playing the best hockey right now. Denver Sports is playing the best outside of the Broncos and outside of the Rockies. They are playing their best right now. The Nuggets are an absolutely they are a stacked and loaded team, very smart. Mike Malone knows exactly how to coach this team. I think the Nuggets will go back to back this year. And as far as the Avalanche go, Joe Sakic, the GM, mentioned before he wanted to build a hyper-aggressive team, and he has. And this is a team that wins a Stanley Cup 20 years later since their last one. And Sakic, Ray Bork, and many others, Peter Forsberg, Patrick Waugh, they were all a part of that championship run. Then you're talking 20 years later, where the Avalanche, they're consistent on offense, hyper-aggressive offensively, and I think they also provide shut-down defense, and they've also got a really good goaltender as well. So I'm curious to see how the Avalanche play throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs because it's a different breed. And I think if you start to look at the Western Conference right now, the Avalanche, the only teams that could possibly be in their way is Vegas and Dallas. Those would be the only 2 teams that could play up to their strengths. I think Winnipeg's a wild card thing for me because I think the Jets have figured out offense. And if you played between Winnipeg and Colorado, that would be a hell of a 7-game series from that. Vegas, Colorado, 7-game series right there. Hell of a watch. Same thing when you look at Dallas and the Avs. I think those are perfect. But if you gave me Colorado and Edmonton, they'd smoke Edmonton. If you gave me Nashville, they'd smoke the Predators. The Avalanche are playing their best hockey right now. But how long and how consistent can they play at this level? That's the real question. But I think right now in a 7-game stretch, they've been great. They've played from behind. They basically have played to where they were down by 4 goals, and then they come back and they win in overtime 5-4. This team is starting to find the groove. And like I said, I love the Middlestat move because of the fact that they filled the hole that they were missing from Nazem Kadri and Andrei Burakovsky. But this is a tough team. I think going into the Stanley Cup playoffs in the Western Conference is going to be fun to watch because ultimately, Edmonton, I don't see them really getting as far as other than the second round. That may be the only time. But when you got Vegas and Dallas and Winnipeg and Colorado, it is very hard to get past a lot of those teams because those are teams that are ready to win now. They've got hyper-aggressive offenses. They have smart defenses. They have smart coaches. And these are guys with experiences. So, again, I think Colorado's off to the best hockey since the trade deadline. I think they figured out their consistency. But the question is now, how long will that consistency be? I am not worried about what Colorado may or may not do. I know what I'm getting with the team. Jared Bednar is a very experienced and smart coach. And I think Colorado can get to as far as however the consistency of the team really does. Because you've got a superstar everywhere. And you've got guys that are stepping up in the most important spots. So Colorado's the team to beat. I mean, they play like this. You could expect this team making it back into the cup again. Good stuff. I mean, I love it this time of year when the Stanley Cup playoffs start heating up and the Colorado Avalanche right now are playing great hockey. Vegas right now has a 3-game winning streak currently. It looks a little bit different, but they're trying to find their groove. They're hoping that everybody stays healthy. Dallas, of course, they're playing defensive hockey. And at the same time, Winnipeg, since they've acquired Tyler Toffoli, they've been winning games. So it's always this time of year it starts to brew up. But I think you'll really start to see everybody's identities really click by the time they get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. True thing. But lots of good stuff. We got a lot more coming up around the corner as we go ahead and take a break. But when we do come back, I'm going to explain because I do like J.J. McCarthy as a quarterback. But I think there are some elements to him that will explain why, because there are now rumors that J.J. McCarthy's stock is going up. But I'm going to be as real as I possibly can about J.J. McCarthy, the player. Because as a person, he's great. He's got a great IQ. But I think there's many things that I could point out about him as the player. Plus, also, opening day around the corner, I've got my top 10 MLB teams ready to go for you when opening day starts up. Now, remember, when I do my top 10s with this, I'm doing this now 3 times in the season. So opening day, mid-season, and then right up there towards postseason. And I'll keep on continuing up from there. So you do not want to end up missing it. All righty, folks. Well, if you guys haven't known by now, the Snake Sports Talk Show is now affiliated with Fanatics. Fanatics, one of the largest companies when it comes to so many different designs and accessories of all of your favorite teams, of all of your favorite major sports. Fanatics has everything that you can ask for, from thousands of different designs and thousands of different accessories and apparel to choose from. And get them at the best affordable price when you go onto fanatics.com. Link will be up in the description as well. Check it out right now because we know Stanley Cup playoffs are around the corner, NBA playoffs are around the corner, and MLB opening day is also up and around the corner. Get yourself geared up and rep for your favorite team today when you go to fanatics.com.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sports Wade Network.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
If I want it, gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you, bitch, always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving.
Don't lose your seat today when you end up joining up on SneakSpeak.com, the most trustworthy streaming app on the market. Find your seat to your next sporting event, live concert with your favorite artist, and more. Use promo code SnakeSports for $20 off of your ticketing purchase. So I started thinking about this here up on the break. So the conversation right now is one of the former NFL analysts basically pointed out J.J. McCarthy, Michigan quarterback. What they're talking about right now is because his pro day started really heating up. They like what they see from him. They know about some of his limitations. Now, to be totally honest, I think to me personally, I think J.J. McCarthy's a real good quarterback. I love his football IQ. I think he's very accurate as a quarterback, but I just don't see enough special. So this was an article that was basically brought up. And as far as looking at all of the draft picks and looking at a lot of star quarterbacks that are going to be coming into the NFL draft, they said J.J. McCarthy, his name's been thrown out everywhere, says there is a possibility that the Washington Commanders could select J.J. McCarthy at number 2. Now, why would this be a big deal? Because if you look at the difference between Michigan and what the Washington Commanders basically offer, the Michigan Wolverines with Jim Harbaugh as their head coach, you have gotten the top offensive line. You've also got really good weapons amongst it. And I'm not saying Washington does not, but the difference is going to be the offensive line. And the other difference is going to be defense. Now, I think Washington has improved in their defense. I think they've also improved in their dual threat backfield between Brian Robinson and now Austin Eckler. So a pass catching running back. That's giving you a little bit more to look for. But the only position and the line that seems to be suspect is the offensive line. That's the only one I'm kind of worried about. J.J. McCarthy is a really good quarterback. He's got a great IQ, but he's not special. I don't get spectacular from J.J. McCarthy on a daily basis like a Caleb Williams or like a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels or even a Bo Nix. With JJ, what I'm getting is I'm getting a coach's quarterback who listens, who's also very coachable, and is somebody that I think honestly can be very accurate to move an offense. Washington does have offensive pieces, but outside of offensive line, that's all you got. Offensive line, it's a little suspect. Now, I don't know if the Commanders are going to honestly revamp this line through the draft. I am assuming they probably will. But you start looking at it, look at the division that you'll be in. If this was the case, if the Commanders took J.J. McCarthy tomorrow, okay, look at the division and look at the pass rushers. Dallas with Micah Parsons twice a year, with a suspected offensive line, you are going to get gobbled up. Philadelphia with Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, you're going to get gobbled up. And they've also got Jalen Carter, and they've got a couple more really good defensive players. And you've also got Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau in New York. So if I'm J.J. McCarthy, I am not looking at Washington as a potential fit because their offensive line has not been shaped up and developed. They're going to probably develop it through the draft. And they're probably going to end up building this thing from either this year, next year, and probably the year after. But I think Washington's for sure, surefire pick would be Jaden Daniels. because he's elusive. He's got an arm. He also can end up dumping off the football, but he also can scramble to get himself out of danger. J.J. McCarthy can't. Now, I think he can move, but it's not going to be quick enough to the point of like a Lamar Jackson, or has the strength and body build like a Justin Herbert. So I think J.J. McCarthy's ideal spot and fit would either be the Denver Broncos or the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, the difference between them and Washington is the Vikings do have a decent offensive line, and they're getting better year after year, and they're going to address more of it in the draft a little bit later on. But I think Minnesota is the perfect fit for it. Decent offensive line. I've got a stacked and loaded offensive roster with now Aaron Jones in the backfield. I've got Justin Jefferson, and I've got Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. That is an ideal fit for a guy like J.J. McCarthy. And he's not under fire. He's not under pressure. By the way, the only pass rushers I have to deal with is Detroit and some parts of Green Bay, but I also got to deal with Chicago with Montez Sweat twice a year. But the offensive line is decent enough to give you a cleaner pocket, enough time to throw, and also to also open up those spots for your offense to thrive. That's the most important key element. And I think J.J. McCarthy will notice the difference of it. Listen, he's had a great offensive line from his days in Michigan. But if you start looking around at some of these divisions in the league, especially in the NFC East, I want no part of. I know we can make a mockery of the Dallas Cowboys, but Micah Parsons is a hyper-aggressive defender and knows how to get to the quarterback and be an offensive disruptor. That we already know. The Giants, the G-Men, with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau, that is a pass rush that all they're looking for is they're looking to disrupt the offense. Okay? They'll worry about offense later on. But their defense looks really good. And then you got Philadelphia. Jalen Carter. You've also got Nolan Smith. And you got a bunch of other really good players. So, and this is a defense that this year the Eagles are looking for a mulligan year. So I don't want any part of that. The NFC East is filled with dogs. They are. And I think, honestly, Washington, with a suspected offensive line, that's not going to be a good fit for J.J. McCarthy. I think Minnesota and Denver, cross your fingers on both of them. I think those are your ideal fits. Now, you could try with the Raiders, but the Raiders, as far as trading up into the draft, it's not going to be possible without getting rid of a star player. I don't think that's going to be possible for the Raiders moving forward. But I think if you're Minnesota, you've got the draft capital. And if you're Denver, you could try to move up slightly if he's still available. But I think my thought is I think Bo Nix ends up with the Broncos. And rightfully so. I think Bo Nix, because of the amount of college starts he's had at Oregon, it's a perfect fit for Sean Payton's system. Because he's going to get a quarterback with experience, and he's going to get a quarterback that's going to build and develop under his system. And he's accurate enough. He's got a decent arm, and this will help the Broncos get at least pivoting to the right direction, winning more games. Okay, yes, they missed the playoffs this past year, but Russell Wilson was Mr. Optimistic. Bo Nix, perfect fit. But I think, to J.J. McCarthy's point, I think Washington, I would not even invest in that. I think your best ideal fit if you're Washington is go and get Jaden Daniels. Elusive, quick runner. The only thing that I worry about with Jaden Daniels is his ability to protect the football. because when he gets hit hard, he coughs up the football. And I'm not sure if that is something you can coach him out of. I think you can. But he's got to protect the football. He's got to basically give the offense a chance to move the chains and score points, because that's exactly what this league is pivoting towards. But I think Washington would be making a mistake if they go and draft J.J. McCarthy, because I love his IQ and I love his competitive mindset. But sometimes those things don't always, especially when you're looking at physicality, doesn't always translate the same way into the NFL as it looks like in college. Because mind you, Caleb Williams in 2 years has had 93 passing touchdowns at USC. That's with an offensive coach. That's with an egregious defense. And the offense still managed to score points. And they're going to score more points next year with Miller Moss. So you got to respect the product. But I think you also have to be very, very real with this. I love JJ McCarthy. I really do. And I hope for the best of success. But I think if you really want to be honest about this, Washington, I'm not going there. I'm not going to go with the hype train and say JJ McCarthy is a number 2 overall pick. I can't. I like the kid. I love his IQ and I love his competitive mindset, but that physicality doesn't throw the deep ball often, doesn't give me enough special and wow. Like, he doesn't lean into the spectacular like a Caleb Williams or a Jaden Daniels or even a Drake May or even a Michael Penix, who's probably going to end up going at least a little bit later in the first round. But I think J.J. McCarthy's best ideal fits are the Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings, and I am leaning more towards the Minnesota Vikings because you're going to get an offensive coach than a defensive coach in Dan Quinn. And in Kevin O'Connell, you're going to build the best. But I don't think that this is honestly going to be something I would invest in if I'm the Commanders moving forward. I'd be taking somebody that's elusive, that can open up small windows, make them even bigger. And I don't think J.J. McCarthy is honestly going to be that guy that will allow me to do that, respectfully. Time now for the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right, so a lot of things going on in the Hot Press today. As we're looking at a lot of different stories. Well, as of right now, this just broke out on my phone here earlier. The LA Rams and former Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White have agreed to a 1-year, close to $10 million contract to be with the team. Tre'Davious White, who was coming off of an injury with the Bills, but looks to have a turnaround. So the former 2019 All-Pro was the Bills' first pick in the draft after Sean McDermott became the head coach of the Bills. Now, the 29-year-old has dealt with an unfortunate circumstance, tearing his left ACL on Thanksgiving in 21, returning for 6 regular season games and 2 playoff games in 22 before he tore his Achilles 4 games into the 2023 season. So I think this is a rebound season for a guy like Tre'Davious White. But here's the best part about the LA Rams, because they needed to figure out, because now Aaron Donald's retired. So they're going to end up needing to figure out their next protege in the defensive line. But I don't think that this is a panic year for the LA Rams in any other way. Now, I do think the Rams with Tre'Davious White and Darius Williams, that's a hell of a combo. I think the Rams, they are definitely going to be back in the playoffs. But I also do think you cannot count out the mind of Sean McDermott at all, because he knows how to figure this out. He knows how to make this work. So I think, to many extents, I think this is probably the best fit for Tre'Davious White. And for a team like the LA Rams that wants to make noise, with the San Francisco 49ers kind of going through a little bit of some news from there, they're kind of right now head in the clouds. this is the perfect time to strike and get the opportunity their way. So I like the move, and I think he's a really good player. I think it's interesting. Okay, so more news in the NFL. The NFL ended up signing Pittsburgh Steelers. Ended up signing ex-Falcons running back Cordero Patterson to a 2-year, $6 million contract to the versatile return man. Now, of course, with the new rule changes now with the kickoffs, this is actually a pretty damn good fit. I like this. So the sources today, after a historically low rate of kickoff returns in 2023, this now seems to be a pivotal role for Cordero Patterson. Now, he played under Arthur Smith's offense before, so he's reuniting with Arthur Smith again since his time in Atlanta. He's had 9 career kick return touchdowns since he entered the NFL in 2013, making him the all-time leader in that category, has 3 times as many kick return touchdowns as any other player in that time span. Now, Steelers last scored a touchdown on a kick return in 2017 by Juju Smith-Schuster on a 96-yarder to the end zone against the Cleveland Browns that year. Now, I think this is a good thing for special teams department because they are going to get a reliable kick returner. And now because the rule changes have basically gone into effect, this is a really good play as well. Now, I do think Cordero Patterson in a very pivotal move to the special teams department. This is great. I don't think Pittsburgh, in my opinion, are just going to wow everybody immediately, but they are making the right moves to kind of get them in the right direction because they got to get everything to work. You got to get Russell Wilson to work. You got to hope that Justin Fields, you're utilizing him to the best of his extent and the best of his capabilities and his strengths, and I think they will. But now with Cordero Patterson in the special teams, this now allows them to get better at kick returns and even in the special teams department. I like this move. I think this is actually pretty good for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. They're going to get a veteran return man. I like it. All right, final story. Basically share with all of you guys. So, as of right now, looking into it with the NBA, so as of right now, a couple of injuries that have basically been happening right now. LeBron James is downgraded with an ankle injury, and he's going to sit out against the Milwaukee Bucks. And also, Jimmy Butler is also ruled out against the Warriors with an illness. Now, the race for the NBA playoffs is still going strong and in effect, but I do think, though, that the Lakers, and as we're looking at it right now with the standings in the NBA, so as you look already, the Boston Celtics have already clinched their spot in the playoffs. And as of right now, Charlotte, Washington, and Detroit, Memphis, Portland, and San Antonio, they are eliminated. Well, shocker, the Memphis Grizzlies, but that's kind of reality from here. But with the injuries, doesn't mean that the Lakers are basically out of it yet. Now, the Golden State Warriors have a chance. They have a chance to sneak their way into the playoffs because right now Houston's knocking on their door, and it's very, very close. The Western Conference right now, I mean, it's ran through by Denver as of today. And as you start to look at it, I mean, I think the Warriors, right now they're going to have to look at a different direction at some point. But if they sneak into the playoffs, it's a good way to end the year, but they are very much going to have to address at some point with a lot of their veteran pieces. Now, I do think that they might. And honestly, I mean, the Western Conference this year has been more locked down by Denver. It's not very much wide open like the Eastern Conference is right now in the NBA because there are several teams. Boston, I think, is definitely a team that could get their way into the NBA Finals from Milwaukee and several other teams. Those are the only couple teams right now. I have question marks, but I do see how far that they get into the playoffs. But I think if Golden State could honestly maintain with the inconsistencies that they've had now and trying to figure themselves out with the mixture of young and veteran pieces, hopefully that they can. But I think this would be a good thing to kind of close the year off of. If they make it into the playoffs, but if they don't make it far into the playoffs, who cares? But they're eventually going to have to really revamp, get new blood, get new juice in this building because it's not going to last for very, very long. So we'll see what happens right now in the coming days as the NBA playoffs begin to heat up. All right, so there goes your news.
This is the hot press.
So I think as of right now, I mean, the way that I look at it, the quarterback talks right now have been heating up. It's why I've said I think J.J. McCarthy would be better off in Denver and in Minnesota. Because if you want me to be honest about all these quarterbacks, because I've been hearing it a ton. It's been heating up. It's been a heated conversation now for the last couple days. Because since we had our pro days, since we had our scouting combines, I mean, the for sure picks. Now, I will have my mock drafts come next month because I'll have my first one as we started off. I'll have 2 more by the end of it. So 3 total. I'll have my first one to kind of kick things off. The second one, I kind of may have some twists and turns. And then as we get closer into NFL draft night, which is about the last week of the month, that is where I'm going to get clarity into the for sure picks that are going to basically be going to a lot of the respected franchises. But I think it's clear. But this quarterback talk right now has been heating up so much. And it's like I said, I'm honest about J.J. McCarthy. I do think he's a gamer, and I do love his football IQ. But at the same time, I don't get a lot of wow. I don't get a lot of spectacular. I think what I get is I get a guy who can work in the trenches, figure a way out. But he has had a very good offensive line in Michigan. But if you draft him in Washington with a suspect offensive line, this is not going to work. He's going to get roughed up. He's going to get the same treatment as Sam Howell did before they departed him to the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I think you're going to see a different Sam Howell in Seattle than you do in Washington. So there's many outlooks to this. But I think if you look at a lot of franchises today, all this talk, all this hype up, I'm just being honest and real. I love J.J. McCarthy, but I don't think he's going to be the second quarterback taken over Jaden Daniels. The only thing I've said is that my only fear of a bust, if Drake May goes to Washington, he could be a potential bust. But that's because they do not have a strong enough left tackle. They don't. I've watched film. Drake May's biggest downfall is his blind side because he holds onto the ball way too long. You need to give him X amount of time to get the ball released, but hopefully if he goes to the right organizations. Now, again, I don't think New England is a sexy destination, but what this means is that he's getting a really good left tackle because New England knows exactly how to draft up and they know how to develop their offensive line. So he's going to get that. You can develop weapons later on in the draft. You can because it's endless. You can also get them cheaper during free agency. So there's many different possibilities to this. But I think if you really want to be honest, Drake May to New England makes total sense. Jaden Daniels to Washington makes sense because with a suspect offensive line, with an elusive quarterback with a decent arm, and all you have to do is get him to protect the football. That is all you have to do. I think if you do that, Washington will be a really, really good and productive team. J.J. McCarthy to Minnesota with a loaded offense has the best chances to be a successful quarterback. Because I'm getting an offensive-minded coach in Kevin O'Connell. I'm getting skill development. And I've got arguably the best wide receiver right now in the league in Justin Jefferson. And the second best in Jordan Addison, who's a touchdown machine after last season. So you could look at this either way. But again, I think Bo Nix into Denver could make sense. The Raiders are not going to end up trading up because it would be too much. It'd be like an absolute handcuff to the Raiders because they now have to give up a star player. They're not going to get rid of Max Crosby. He is absolutely the staple of the Raiders defense and their culture. So he's not going nowhere. But I think if you're the Raiders, I would honestly be okay with drafting Michael Penix. Lefty, strong in the pocket, quicker ball release, and I think in the end, he's a pure thrower. And you've got Devontae Adams out there who loves a pure thrower because look at him and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that was a relationship that lasted for a very long time. Pure thrower, golden arm. Now, it is a lefty, and we don't get a whole lot of successes with lefties. But that is the best situation and scenario you could possibly look for. And as I've said, keep your eyes on a couple of other quarterbacks between Joe Milton, Spencer Rattler, and Sam Hartman. Those are some pretty decent quarterbacks too. And I mean, Joe Milton can throw an absolute dive bomb. And he can. And Sam Hartman, love his football IQ, very accurate. And then you got Spencer Rattler, who now his name started coming up a little bit more after we saw it from the combine. The combine is without pads, and you could showcase everybody's skills. But when you put them in an NFL field, when you put them in an NFL game, the speed is different. The coaching's different. The competitiveness is different. So I think that's your best chances right there. But I will have my mock draft come next month, and I'm going to give everybody a taste of what exactly I think ideal fits. And then probably the second mock draft that I will have will feature twists and turns. But that's my pure honesty with it. I mean, you're going to witness that. And then come closer to the draft, I think we have a very good chance where everybody is at, what players are going to be taken. So be prepared for that. Short break here coming up, and then we've got MLB Top 10 coming opening day. Don't want to miss it here on the Snake Sports Talk Show.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, folks. Well, the perfect way to cap off the show, and as you know, Major League Baseball's opening day is right around the corner. I am super excited about it. I do have the perfect occasion for this, as of course, my Major League Baseball top 10. I'm excited about this. Now, again, this could change 3 times throughout the season. But I think this is clear. I think opening day, it's my favorite time of the year. Put your caps on, folks, because our Major League Baseball top 10 is here, and here we go.
Number 10.
All right, so my number 10 team, and I will have new music soundtracks as well be coming up as well. So my number 10 team, now this was very tough for me, but I think honestly this is as true as I could possibly get it with between youngster, potential talent, and their starting rotation and the lineup. I'm going with the Cincinnati Reds at number 10. Now, the reason for this is Ellie De La Cruz is just a different breed. The kid can play. The kid can hit rockets or home runs. And he's fast, and he's also very good at his position. Now, the Reds last season, it was a very young team. But, however, what I'm getting is I'm getting a young, developing team right now. And so I don't think this is a bad idea. And honestly, a bad thought for the Cincinnati Reds at number 10. I've had so many different teams. I'll cap up on that here a little bit later on. But I like the competition in the NL Central. I think the Reds is about the surefire pick that you could choose from at number 10.
Number 9.
9 team that's also another young one that I like is the Seattle Mariners. Now, Julio Rodriguez is bound for a big-time prime year with the Mariners moving forward. I like the Mariners starting rotation also because outside of Luis Castillo, I love their bullpen. I think they've also got very good situational starters as well from the rotation from the top down. The Mariners are going to want to compete in the AL West, and I think the Mariners have at least the best chances getting back into the postseason if Julio Rodriguez has an all-star year. And I think if you put him in the MVP caliber talk, he could be a guy that could be very, very good down the stretch. It's not always easy. I expect them to be very decent to start this season, but watch out for them to get red hot late in the season. I have them at 9.
Number 8.
Team for me I have is the New York Yankees. I think personally to me, the Yankees have a very good roster, but here's the problem. I've been saying it before and I'll say it again about the Yankees. You waited too damn long to going and getting a stable guy in your rotation. You could have gotten Blake Snell. If they didn't pull the trigger, that's on them. But I love the battery as far as Juan Soto goes because he's young. He can hit the ball anywhere out in the field, whether he pulls it or he hits it opposite field. But the Yankees, as of right now, they are going to rebound this next season in the AL East. But I think there's going to be a couple of fits that's going to be coming their way, especially at number 7.
Number 7.
Team that I think that could very much give them fits is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, last season they did make it into the World Series, but what were they missing? They were missing a little bit of a plug-in-and-play type of rotation guy. They got that. They got Eduardo Rodriguez in Major League Baseball free agency, but they also ended up acquiring from the Seattle Mariners a Eugenio Suarez. So he goes back to the National League, solidifies their third base problem. And I think, honestly, the Diamondbacks, they're not a team that to joke around with. This is a team that's legit. They have a more positive upside with Torey Lobulo and multiple youngsters with Corbin Carroll and others than I think arguably the San Diego Padres. Sorry, Padre fans, but I don't think their upside is anywhere close to Arizona's. I have a number 7.
Number 6.
Me is the Houston Astros. Now, the Astros are the hardest team to really eliminate. Now, I love with their roster. I think what's different about them this year is their starting rotation. Now, I don't know what I'm going to get with them, respectfully, but I do love how the consistency of their roster is. They are definitely the team to compete in the AL West. Last year, it was a cat and mouse fight between them and one other team that I have them at number 5.
Number 5.
To me, the team that eliminated them last season was the Texas Rangers, and I have them up there as a top 5 team. Listen, I'm getting a healthy Jacob deGrom back. I've also got Max Scherzer. I've got a couple guys in that rotation with Nathan Eovaldi and multiple others. I love the fact that the Rangers and their lineup with Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and also Adolis Garcia, this team got red hot in October. But I honestly think that the Rangers are going to be back in the postseason. They're going to compete again against Houston, and I have them at number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4 team to me that did not win the postseason game, but they were very, very clutch in the AL East is the Baltimore Orioles. You may not think very highly about the Orioles' young roster, but much like the Arizona Diamondbacks, they are building young. They are ready to roll, and I think because now that they have some experiences amongst them, they are going to be the hot team to keep an eye out for. Now, Jackson Holliday is starting the year in the minor league system, but once he gets called up with Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and Grayson Rodriguez, watch out for the Orioles. I think they'll finally win their playoff game, and I have them at 4. I think this is a young team that is stapled now to make some serious noise in the AL East and also in the American League as a whole.
Number 3.
To me, that still stays consistent, and I do like with what their roster brings and their rotation is the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, what went wrong for them last season was there was inconsistency in the postseason. I think that the rotation started to suffer some injuries, but I think this year could potentially be the Phillies bouncing back and potentially end up making it into the NLCS if they possibly can. But the one team that gives them a lot of fits, and I'd love to see what the competition in the NL East will be. I have the Phillies at 3, but here we go at number 2.
Number 2.
To honestly give them fits in the NL East is the Atlanta Braves, and for many reasons, because the Braves are such an expendable team that has an awful lot of talent. They've got a very good pitching rotation. They just added in veteran pieces, especially Chris Sale. Now, Sale's coming off of an injured year, but I think they're going to rebound with their rotation. They're a lot better. Spencer Strider, by the way, a guy that really found his own last season. I mean, whoo, that guy really, really showed exactly a lot of the potential that he's got for the Atlanta Braves rotation. But between him, Max Fried, and multiple others, the Atlanta Braves, you cannot go wrong with being the number 2 team. And then, of course, you know who my obvious at number 1 is.
Number 1.
Team. And yes, he's going to be back for baseball activities. That's going to be the LA Dodgers. There is no complaints whatsoever about this. The Dodgers have such a loaded roster. They added in Tyler Glasnow. Now listen, okay, Yoshinobu Yamamoto did not have a great debut. But who cares? I've got Tyler Glasnow. I've got Shohei Ohtani, who's not pitching, but I have him in the rotation as the battery to this offense. Now, I do think they do need to acquire some pieces during the trade deadline at some point, but I think it's clear. Dodgers have a loaded roster. What is the expectancy that they get to the World Series? That is the problem a lot of people keep freaking out about because of this whole gambling thing and Shohei Ohtani and all the rest of it. You don't know if this team makes it to the World Series. Baseball's so unpredictable. I think, honestly, the Dodgers, they have a very good roster. I trust them. But in postseason baseball, anything can happen, man. It really, really can. But I think this is my honest top 10 from here. Love it. So there you go. Dodgers sitting comfortably at number 1. Dodgers, Braves, Phillies, Orioles, Rangers, Astros, D-backs, Yankees, Mariners, and Reds. Now, the teams that I think were honorable mentions that are right below 10 that I think are right in between 15. I mean, I got the Twins at 11. I've got the Mets at 12. And I think between those teams, I've even got Toronto around somewhere between 14, 13. But, I mean, you got to be honest here. I mean, first of all, the Milwaukee Brewers lost both their rotation guys, Adrian Hauser and Corbin Burns. I mean, Baltimore made a serious move throughout the offseason and going and acquiring that. But I think it's because it's new ownership, it's new money, it's a new outlook. I think this is huge. And I think the Orioles are ready to win right now. They lost their postseason series, but you know what? It's a young team. I'm building up. It's a young team that I think is now experienced and they're establishing themselves. And like I said, Jackson Holiday gets called up. Watch out. Watch out for this team. But as far as the Mets is concerned, I do not have them at number 10. And let me explain why. Because the consistency with the Mets is very questionable. But they did the right thing. They went and got JD Martinez, a battery into their lineup, because they needed that for Pete Alonso and for Francisco Lindor. This is no question for them. But I think the Mets can compete in this division. But again, when you've got the Braves and you've got the Phillies at 2 and 3, that's very hard. The Marlins, come on. Nationals are rebuilding, and you could bet your ass that honestly, when it comes to Steve Cohen and when it comes to the Mets in general, they have got to win. They've got to make it into the postseason. Now, again, this could open for them to making it into the wild card because, again, you could have a young team like the Reds somewhere down the stretch by the second half of the season that if they start to show some inconsistencies, that's understandable. But again, anything can happen in postseason baseball. But that's my opening day lineup from there. My top 10 teams from there. Definitely check it out. I'll be posting it here in a little bit as well on all social media platforms. And you can also hear it up on the radio as well. For those of you, I apologize for my listeners that can't see it, but these are exactly all of my teams. But check out my social media. I'll have it posted up. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it here for me on this fiery show of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Appreciate all of you guys for joining on in. Thank you to all of my fans here on TikTok Live. Appreciate all of you guys for joining on in. Like, follow, subscribe. Keep yourselves up to date on future and past episodes. BetUS right now has a competition going on, the 10 Grand Sweet 16 contest. Don't miss out. $100 deposit or more gets you a free entry into the 10 Grand contest. BetUS, where the game begins. Also, SeatGeek, don't lose your seat today. Your next event with SeatGeek.com, promo code SnakeSports for $20 off. Jake the Snake Silva signing off here. Have a great night, and we'll see you on the next edition of the Snake Sports Talk Show. See you guys later.